So my name is Lukas, I'm co-founder and CEO of TACEO. We're building a private compute network, and at the moment we're especially focused on identity and finance. So why is privacy for agents and cryptography different than it was until now? So for humanity, we always tried in our history to scale trust, to achieve better outcomes, to work together with more people, to creating better outcomes for everyone, or at least for the ones winning. And there has been a time where religion was even confined to family. Every family had their own religion and their own gods, their own stories, their own customs. And over time, very slowly, over generations, we built cities, we built tribes. So religion scaled beyond families. And in that time, we built also common shared beliefs and stories. And the most interesting story and the most impactful one was that of money. So nowadays, everybody of us, I think so, is believing in money, and probably 99% in the world population is believing in the concept of money and the story of money. And there hasn't been a lot of change since the last few thousand years in how to scale trust beyond money. And of course, we build more sophisticated institutions to build more trust in this concept of money, but not really something dramatic changed. And for me, the first test of this, if this scales even further, was the internet. So the internet brought this trust concept to I would say to its extremes and maybe failed at some points. But still, we kind of somehow worked it out, or maybe the internet was constrained by how we build trust and scale trust so that we have the outcome of the internet today. But now agents are entering the picture, and I cannot see a future where we, with the current institutions that we have, with the current ways we build trust, we can scale this any further. And if you think about micropayments, how do you think every micropayment will have a contract and you can go to court over this small micropayment? It's just not really foreseeable how the existing system can scale to this. And I think that's where the old meaning of crypto will come back. So cryptography will be center stage to enable us in a way to scale trust that we have never before in humanity. And this will come faster than most of us think. So this is from last week. The CEO of Cloudflare, Matthew Prince, was I think front-run by his own prediction by 18 months. So it was the turning point for Cloudflare, where they saw more traffic from bots than from humans. And earlier this year, he was at a fireside chat which I attended and said something very astonishing for a company of this size. He said the only way how to handle all those agents, and he thinks about millions of transactions per second, is by having the agents cryptographically verified. And that's a huge statement, as we know that even for the current internet traffic, it's quite hard to bake in more verification privacy. But then from probably the company that does most of the traffic stating we need to find a way how to secure this with cryptography is quite bold. And I think is the only way how this new agentic economy can grow in the way the most bullish people see is by enabling cryptography at the underlying layer. Now, what do we do at TACEO? Agents, trust, and the whole governance is a big space. So I took this from some Twitter post that was quite nicely categorizing how to think about the tech agent stack. So it's I would say everything has to do with trust, but here specifically the trust plane is about identity and how to discover agents and the reputation of agents. Now, then you have simplified saying payments, but of course payments can be broken down to much more nuanced levels quoting, contracting, settlement, disputes, and the last one about governance, compliance, and orchestration. And at TACEO, we work on the first two ones, mostly in the identity and in the settlement, so really private payments. Now, the questions we're trying to solve with our solutions is like, who authorized it? Can you cryptographically verify who is like behind this agent, and who doesn't have to be like a KYC person, but like some on-chain identity or some digital identity, let's say, and how is it going to pay, and can you verify it? And you see like that most transactions that we foresee with agents are very small. So this creates also a design base for cryptography that is quite challenging, because yeah, like if the average transaction is like sub-dollar, like you of course cannot have like a system that costs you like 1 cent, for example, then the economics won't work anymore. So you have to be sub-cent level what you can use from your cryptography stack. Now, we first worked on the identity space, in which we developed a protocol that is in its essence based on what's called OPRFs. This is oblivious pseudorandom functions, and we thresholdized them, verified them. So we did MPC over them and CK in a very easy word. And for which, like, of course, it's like cool to make like everything thresholdized and verifiable, because it's like a challenge in cryptography to make like these primitives like or combine these primitives. But in essence, what we want to do is like to derive a persistent and unlinkable identifier, which kind of seems contradictable. So what you want to actually do is like you can, for example, rate limit an agent without revealing like, okay, this was Lukas like trying to get this resource for the third time, ban him from this service. But in a way like that, it's still private. You can see like, okay, this user, which is like just like an anonymous identifier, is like hitting his limit, so we do not like accept it anymore or has to pay more. And so, and in a way that like this identity is somewhat linked mostly in our system and our customers, like at Face, Passport, Iris, or Palm, which like are derived then like this on-chain identifiers. And yeah, this is like from like I think 2 days ago. So we launched the network in end of March, and like yeah, people testing it out. And now in production, you see like that things are going really nicely and scaling. So we're currently hitting like 1 TPS at the moment from actual requests. But the system was like, you can design, like you could use like a general purpose CK MPC solution for this, but this wouldn't scale like to agent levels. So the system is really designed to handle tens of thousands of requests per second, so that we're really ready for once like the adoption with agents hits. The second part we're working on is in the payment space, as I said. And here we especially look at HTTP 4.2 or X4.2. And this, most of you, I guess, know is like this early internet protocol standard, which was already defined in 1997 and was basically unused for 30 years. And it was a clever idea. So whenever like a client service a server and wants to see a content, for example, the server says, yeah, nice, but like, please pay me something. Like this is like gated with like some commercials. And finally, like 2 months ago, there was the creation of the X402 Foundation under the Linux Foundation, with like a lot of prominent companies in this foundation that want to develop this standard further. And yeah, Cloudflare alone says that it sends like 1 billion HTTP requests a day to demand like, for example, for APIs, something to pay for. Now, there's a huge problem that, as in the early days of the internet, like everything is public. So X402 is like completely broadcasted. Everybody can see who pays whom, which amount, which is obviously very bad. And like if you're not coming from crypto and blockchain, like you're also not used to like that every transaction is leaked into the public. What we developed is like also based on like similar primitives like multi-party computation and zero knowledge proofs, drop-in privacy scheme for X402, which we call confidential X402, which at first now hides the balances and the amounts. But still you can prove everything on chain with a zero knowledge proof. And that's what's live today on base Symbolier, so you can try it out, and I've done like a video where you can see like how you interact with a wallet, for example, and using those X42. I mentioned like that's quite hard, the design space, especially for designing these things, because like existing approaches, like for example using a lot of gas to make X42 private and confidential, which like if you're paying the same amount, like if you pay 30 cents and paying 30 cents for like having it private, it won't be used. And if also like if it's too slow. So we're here with like our solution in like sub-second and like on-chain gas costs that are quite reasonable. And the next thing which we work to bring also on testnet is like full sender-receiver privacy. So not only hiding amount and balances, but like the full sender and receiver, which is something we see like people are really asking for, because often like for use cases you can already infer a lot by who is interacting with whom. Now I hope this plays here. Let's see. So this is what like this confidential X42 looks like on base today. So for example, you're buying some API, you choose like which tier you gonna use, you connect your wallet, and the flow is the exact same round trips with like X42. So like there is, for the user perspective, nothing different. It's just that the server have a different resource, which like a different scheme, which now protects the content and the amount. So you can think of like an API provider would, if like everything would be public, completely leak how many enterprise customer do you have? Do you charge different for different enterprise customers? So this is also something very interesting, like price dynamic. Like if you could see like that another company gets like a cheaper price, you probably know like who will end up like if you have two customers and you charge them differently, then the one like that pays more likely goes to you and wants to have a refund, not the other way around, like that one that gets the cheaper to want to pay up. So that's it. So we're working on like what seems like two layers of the same stack. For us, it's like very tightly intervened. Like identity and payments is something that you cannot often like really entangle too much. So if you have like if you have a public identity but paying private, at some point like at the boundaries you leak something. That's why we tackle them together.